Hello, beautiful people. So, I wanted to chat with you guys really quickly about this episode of the astrology podcast that I just happened to listen to. And the creator, the host, he focused on, I guess, this controversy that resurfaced that's been going on for a long time was basically that our zodiac signs have changed because there's a 13 constellation or what have you, and so this has been something that's been coming up every couple years or so. And so I guess it came up again recently. And so he re released an episode of him talking about this controversy or this particular topic that keeps coming up and why it keeps coming up. And so if you're interested in his checking out this episode from him, I will have it in the description to this video. It's awesome. I'm obsessed with this podcast. I'm really upset that I did not listen to it before when I've discovered the YouTube channel years and years ago, but obviously divine timing. But I just wanted to talk about the just this topic and just how interesting different perspectives are to me. And I've had people, because I studied astronomy and physics in college, and I've had people argue in the science community, and not just in the astronomy community, but definitely in the science community, that astrology is invalid because it's not even, it's not even addressing where the constellations actually are at this time. And so with that in mind, I've always looked into that in regard to what's really true. And so my biggest argument is that tropical zodiac or tropical astrology system is based on seasons. So at 0 degrees, Aries already starts at zero degrees. Spring equinox is always the beginning of Aries season, which is at 0 degrees. And that's where you start. Every 30 degrees, there's a different sign. And even in sidereal astrology, they also do that. And the argument is that in sidereal astrology, this is where the constellations actually are. It's a system that studies and relates, the energies to where the constellations already are. And that's actually not true, because the constellations within themselves are not evenly 30 degrees, which was something that I've always kind of pondered and didn't really find many answers to. And I was just like, how are all of these signs actually 30 degrees? Especially when you start using different house systems, you see that, right now I'm using whole sign houses. And so everything is perfectly 30 degrees. But when I was using the porphyry house system, some signs didn't even rule a house, or they weren't always, 30 degrees. And so things started to get a little bit complicated, but then, I took it for granted and obviously took people's word for it. And I haven't studied sidereal astrology, so I never really looked at in that system for my own practice. But I knew that tropical astrology was based primarily, but not completely, on the seasons and where we are within those times. And, summer solstice is Cancer season, beginning of Cancer season. The fall equinox is Libra, and then the winter solstice is Capricorn season. So that's how I've always had it in my mind, and it made sense to me in that way. But I never really knew about sidereal astrology. So that's definitely one way to really look at if you're trying to judge the validity of one system to another system. And with anything, it's like doing your own research and looking into the matter. And so personally, I haven't really used a sidereal based system, and so I can't say which one I like better, or in my own opinion, which one is better than the other. And I think it's all a different perspective. It's all on how you want to look at it, and it's just getting a different view on just some kind of way to make sense of the world around us. And so I'm going to do a separate cosmic climate, but I just wanted to talk about how these different perspectives, how they begin to, when you really look into them and you really start to use them and practice them within astrology, you'll see how the different methods work within themselves. And one of my favorite things right now within Hellenistic astrology is the concept of the day and the night birth. And, when I would do readings, I would always, I would notice the different hemispheres. And I'm like, okay, you have a lot of planets. Like for myself, as an example, I have a lot of planets in the lower hemisphere. So, arguably, I am an introverted person. And I spend a lot of time in my home. Like my home has to look and feel a certain way because I'm always there. I'm not someone that's just kind of like touch base home and I'm, in this country or, in this place or just always out and about, which, I'm starting to see myself transition out of that as I get older. But that's definitely one thing that stood out to me. And, with the day and the night birth, you can look at someone who has, a lot of planets in the upper hemisphere. You could say they're extrovert and they're out in the outer world. But, and, I definitely feel that that's relevant. And I loved when I came into Hellenistic astrology that there's a different approach or there are different aspects to look at when someone has been born during the day and when someone's born at the night. But I want to bring this back to the new moon that's coming in Cancer because I think it's interesting how we are having a new moon and in the same sign 2 times. And so with the first new moon, initial new moon, I wanted to look back because I was like, I know this coming new moon, which is July 20th, is in the daytime. When I was looking at, just what's going on during this time and for next week, I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, the moon and the sun are one in alignment and they're both at the top of the chart. So I was like, oh, okay, the sun is, out during the day. So this is like essentially a day birth or a day chart that I'm focusing on as far as this placement. We have the sun and the moon align. We have our creative self. We have our emotional self together in alignment, and they're in the outer world essentially because wherever you are, it's going to be somewhat close to the MC or, the heavens or, high noon because this new moon is going to be at an exact, the exact degrees of 28 degrees of Cancer at 1:33 p.m. That's Eastern time. So depending where you are, if you're in this northern hemisphere here, it's going to be, or, at least in the United States, it's going to be somewhere at the top of the sky when the moon and the sun perfectly align perfectly. And so I saw that and I was like, oh, I wonder, if the previous new moon that we had in Cancer, which was in June, I wonder if that, let's see, I just want to even know for myself. If I have it conveniently right here, that would be awesome. June 21st, yes, was that the new moon in Cancer. So we're experiencing that again. And so I was curious if that new moon happened at night. And I was so happy. It was really, really early in the morning, but while the sun and moon were still under the horizon at 2:41 a.m. Eastern time. So it's almost, at 12 degrees. It's almost 12 hours apart in like opposite positions, from the past new moon, which, starting out the new season, and it was a solar eclipse. I feel looking back at that energy that there was a lot of focus on your emotional self, like you focusing solely on that and being alone with yourself and taking time to, having that withdrawal period. If you ever, learn astrology with me, with Cancer, the biggest thing that is really helpful for them is that withdrawal and animation cycle where when you're feeling really passionate, intense emotions, it's really important that strong Cancer people go and do their thing and process the emotions in whatever way is necessary. And then usually when they have that time to do their thing, then they can come back. And once they've like kind of figured it out, then they are more joyful or wanting to express, their emotions or what they went through or what they experienced or what kind of enlightening thing they came across. And so that's kind of what we're working with the new moon in Cancer. We have the new moon, the previous new moon that was in Cancer was more so that withdrawal period of really going within. I mean, yes, it was the first day of summer officially, but it was still, we're in that transition period of of planting the seeds, and now we're just like, boom, now it's summertime, and it's time to go out and really start to see what you can cultivate. And so that was a lot of energy focused on that home still within kind of experience. And now, as we are at the peak of summer almost, and we have another new moon in Cancer, and it's pretty much at high noon, it's at the top of the sky, we are at a point where it's like, oh, let's go out and let's express, communicate with people and express like what we've discovered or learned about ourselves, how we process our emotions, what new perspectives we've gained, and so forth. So, and like I said, we are pretty much almost at that midsummer point. So this is the time where we're going to be like really starting to see, abundance, and see like the growth that, we've been working towards since the spring or late winter. So I thought that was really interesting when I looked at that. If you have any comments or questions, definitely feel free to leave them below. I definitely would love to hear what you fellow astrologers think, or anyone who's just curious about astrology or just have had questions about this topic in particular. Definitely please comment and like, follow, and also I am still offering 25% off my astrology readings with the discount code Hellenistic. And so you can book that reading down below. I will talk to you guys in the next one.